Mark Bridges, costume designer on Maestro. You've worked with Bradley Cooper before, but this is the first time with him as a director and a screenwriter in addition to actor. So what was that collaboration like?
It was a great experience. We had worked together on Silver Linings Playbook as well as Licorice Pizza. We happened to be working on Licorice Pizza at the time when he was doing some camera tests for Maestro, some of the prosthetic makeup tests. And he asked me to come on board to start doing the costumes. So I was able a couple of years before shooting to be able to delve into the well-documented life of Leonard Bernstein and Felicia Bernstein.
How much did you know about Leonard Bernstein before this? Were like how familiar were you with him?
Uh, I remember he would do the young people's concerts on television when we were children, and of course, I knew his work of On the Town and West Side Story. But as far as his personal life, I didn't know that much about him at all.
What kind of research does this entail? Because like you said, like there's the public life, but you're also capturing the private moments between the couple. And I know you obviously also talk to their children as well. So what kind of resource were they?
Yeah, they were amazing resources. I think I started with what's readily available books that are published about him. We just in 2018, I think we had his 100th birthday. So there were a lot of publications out at the time that he's well documented on the web. So you're seeing what his public persona was, or certainly a life from the 40s to his death in 1990. And then once we were put in contact with the children and invited to their country house, that's where you really saw where they existed and breathed the air that they breathe, and were able to put together all the pieces, certainly, and was invited to look at in their closet what was left there, certainly clothes that Leonard had after Felicia passed away, and we were able to use one of Felicia's dresses on Carrie and one of Leonard's robes on Bradley, which unfortunately didn't make it to the final cut. But certainly when we were shooting, there was an incredible energy there.
Which dress did you use
It's
for?
for this summer dress, it's blue gingham with a large rickrack at the neck and the hem. And Jamie said, "Oh, this is what my mother would wear when she was here in the summers," and she offered us to we could use anything we wanted to, and whether I was going to use that actual garment on Carrie, I wanted to have it in case we were going to remake it or something, but it actually went right on Carrie, and it was great to have that energy at that particular moment of those scenes that take a very serious scene that takes place at the country house.
Mhm. Like how many outfits did you want to recreate exactly, or how many did you just kind of want to use off as like a starting point, and put your own twist on it?
Mhm. I think I only think a couple of Felicia's outfits, or maybe one, and then plus her summer dress, were actually what she would wear. Like she was actually something that I found in research. But most of it was finding out who the character was, and then building something that was appropriate for that character at that time in their life, and what we want to say about them and how they're presenting themselves. Leonard, I actually used a few more things from research for him because he's a very iconic person. You're making decisions on, you see what year it takes place, and then you're looking at the research, and this seems to be his turtleneck period, or it's very famous, his debut at Carnegie Hall in 1943 as a 25-year-old. So why not recreate that image. I mean, it's very famous. And his brother wrote a book, as well as his daughter wrote a book, but his brother wrote a book and recounts what he remembers what Lenny wore to his premiere. So, you're kind of honoring the man and his history and some iconic moments in his life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the film covers, I think, 40 years, right?
Yeah, a little more than 40. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I love that the film, like there are no title cards telling you what year it is, or like 12 years later or something, and you get that as the viewer. Just I think later on it's like through the makeup too, but early on it's like through the clothes, like just the different styles of the period. And so how did you go about wanting to communicate that it's a different year now through the fashions of that time?
Yeah, it's always very fascinating to me. I'll watch some classic films and I'll be like, what makes this look like 1937?
Like why is this the 50s? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like what hallmarks of that moment in time are here? And then so that's the way I look at when I'm designing a scene. What was in vogue? What was the hem length? What was the shoulder like? Did women wear hats? Did men wear hats? The shape of the trousers. I'm looking for any language of 1943, 1955, 1971. What makes that look like that? And then so I try to be very dead on to tell the story that way visually. And I I just did my thing to tell the story as best I could. And, Bradley made the choice of not putting any kind of placards to say what year it is. And hopefully you're on the ride and understand, along with the makeup and the hair changes and things, and that this is a life. This is yet another beat in these two people's life.
for sure. It's like caftans, the 70s, you know.
Yeah, there are
Um,
a lot of language things to use for those
yeah.
that are so specific to each period, whether it's shoulder pads for Felicia in the 40s, or an elegant gown in the 50s, or a very chic dress. You even get down to thinking, where do these people shop? Where do they get their clothes made? Who buys their clothes for them? Even Bradley did a great piece in the film where he goes, Felicia, I look good because Felicia dresses me. If I was left to myself, I'd be a mess. And we tried to even reflect that, which was true, when after she passes, and his look is a little bold and a little too young for him. But
That's what I was just about to get to, because yeah, after she passes, like he's out of his turtleneck era, and he's a little bit more out, and it feels like he's like free of constraints, and he's
that's
not afraid to be himself too.
That's right. And sometimes, and I love the fact that he would often take missteps with that. I mean, that's something that you notice in the photographic research, and I would want to play up, because that is another section of his life.
For sure. Well, one final thing I want to mention is Felicia's like blue-green dress that's used on the poster, and I feel like certain outfits just kind of become synonymous with the film now, and I think that just became associated with the movie now because it was used on the poster, like her back. So what went into that dress?
It is a time in her life where we see her really at the height of her being Mrs. Maestro. And I knew that if she was hostess to a party at her house at the Dakota, she would have something terribly chic. She was a very chic woman. And that came on. I looked for a prototype dress. I think I found the prototype for that dress at the collection at Western Costume, along with several other things. And I was looking for dresses that had the least amount of seams, because having done Phantom Thread, you see what couture is kind of cleverly done with the least amount of seams, kind of. At least that was my impression of it. And you know, we've tried the shape on Carrie and it was particularly flattering shape. Went about to, part of the key to that dress is the fabric. And we found a wonderful silk wool blend that is still milled right now. And it was a beautiful ice blue. And it worked for sculpting that shape. And it also photographed very well. And so, you know, and she's very elegant in the scenes, and the rest of the guests kind of went off of the feeling of her dress. But this color, using this color, would make her stand out in a sea of guests, you know. So
Yeah,
that was part of my plan. You know, and you there are happy accidents. I mean, I was doing a scene to show her off and say something about her life, and it ended up capturing the imagination.
for sure. Well, Mark, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you back in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.